Hey everybody, and welcome back to another great, fantastic, super educational, unstoppable episode of You're Just Stupid, the podcast that makes you both smarter and dumber at the same time. Hi, in case you already forgot, my name is Renee Espinosa, aka the best thing to ever come out of a horse asshole. And over here we have my good buddy, my twin, Ray Ellis, aka the always open meat market. Ray, say hey.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm honored to be introduced by you, Renee.
Oh,
Feels
thank you.
great.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been too long because we've not had a Ray episode in
Quite
well
some time.
quite some time, and we realized that really y'all guys here are really for Ray, and I'm just a side effect really. It's kind of like when you take your blood pressure medicines and before you know it you can't breathe.
He's just our eye candy here. That's why he has a podcast.
That's really I'm here to pull in the very valuable demographic of gay people with no taste in men. Anyways, what are we going to talk about today, Ray? I have no clue. I have no idea. I'm going in blinder than Helen Keller into an attic.
I haven't heard a good Helen Keller joke in forever. Those used to be the shit in middle school.
Thank you.
Um, and I'm fully prepared for any sort of hate mail we get for that. But, if we get any sort of mail, I think that's great. But I'm going to start this episode off with a little intro that I came up with. It's really original.
Okay.
Renee, have you ever had beef?
As a Texan, I'm going to say yes. I have consumed cow before.
Okay, all right. What's your favorite way how to have beef or to cook it up?
Well, I'll just kind of say with the dinner I had last night, it was pretty solid. I grilled some steaks on the barbecue, so let's just say steak. I like steak.
Steak on the bobby. Do
Steak
you
on the
have?
bobby.
Do you like it a good medium, well done, rare,
I'm
bloody?
gonna say rare. I'm gonna say rare.
Like a true Texan.
Let's do it like a true Texan would. And I like when I bite down in my meat, I like to hear it moo. And then when I'm done with my women, I have a steak.
So the reason I'm asking about beef, Renee, is because this episode is all about beef, and not in the way that you would think, but it is all about beef.
So we're not talking about the beef industry or what's really in Wendy's chili.
No, we're not. Unfortunately,
Really?
that's
No.
gonna be saved for another time,
Oh, okay.
maybe.
Because I actually do like Wendy's chili.
I
I
do too. It really
and
wouldn't off put me to eating it just because I'm a disgusting person.
hmm
Um, and so anyway, so no, this
It's
is
true, guys.
about.
She is.
I am disgusting. This beef is beef between an organization called Move and the Police Department, Philadelphia Police
Oh,
Department. Yes, major beef. There's also inner beefs that are working. We'll talk about all sorts of beefs.
I don't know what any of this is.
Yeah, I was really nervous to do this one just because it's a little dicey. Has a lot to do with race, but it's also questionable about how much it has to do with race, which we'll talk about a little bit.
You know
Um,
what? We'll let our fine listeners decide how much of this is about race.
yeah, but do it in a nice way, please. I've done a lot of
It's
research.
it's it's 2022. There will be no problem with having a race dialogue about race on the internet.
Exactly. And also, this story is something that people, when I've asked them, they've heard of it possibly, but they don't really know any details about it. And when you hear about this story, it's wild in. Like, there is shit that goes on. Like, you're like, I cannot believe this takes place in the 1980s in an American city. Like, crazy. Yeah.
The 80s were the best decade. I was born in the 80s. Today's episode takes place in the 80s. Um, Cocaine was awesome in the 80s. Damn, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
John Wayne Gacy, I think he was the 80s.
yeah, yeah. There was nothing wrong with the 80s. So let's jump on in. I'm ready to
Yeah.
dive in head first. Let's
So I'm
do
just gonna
this.
paint a little picture for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Be Bob Ross me.
Oh, fuck yeah. Any mistakes we make, they're just birds now.
Yeah,
So
they're happy little accidents.
so we're gonna start with this character. And I'm gonna call him by his preferred name. He prefers to be called John Africa. We're gonna be nice to him and give him his preferred names. I just think it's
That's
nice to be
actually a pretty
respectful.
solid preferred name. I'm
John
gonna.
Africa?
You
Yeah,
know
it's a
what?
nice strong name.
Can I be Renee Africa?
Sure, we can change it. Why
You know
not?
what? Cool. Yeah, I'm Renee Africa now.
This is
But this
America. You can
this is
change it to Africa.
yeah, exactly. We're part of Africa now.
So basically, this guy was born Vincent Leapart in 1931. Yeah, John Africa's way better. Yeah, and basically he was like one out of 10 kids, so he had a big family. Uh, kind of an impoverished family. He had little formal education. Um, dropped out of school at age 16.
Hmm.
Uh, and he went to war and then came back and kind of,
Which war? Korea? Because
God,
he's.
I wish I wrote it down.
Oh, okay, okay.
I
Sorry,
was
I'm.
hoping
I
we'd
get.
go
I
without you asking me that. He went to some war. I want to say it was Vietnam.
okay. He went to war. He killed some
Oh, Korean
non-Americans.
War. I did write it down.
Yeah. See,
Okay.
see.
Korean War.
Guys, I'm also the ombudsman for our podcast. Just to let you know, so I'm making sure I'm fact
I'm
checking
trying to make you
constantly.
smarter and stupider at the same time, you know? So John Africa goes into the Korean War and comes out, and he comes back a little fucked up, which I don't really blame him. I mean, I've never been to war, but I'm sure it's not good.
I got
Uh,
fucked up after I went to Korea. Apparently, there's a big difference between the South and the North.
no one told poor Renee that.
No one told me that. And going there to South Korea, thinking it was gonna be like North Korea. Yeah, not good.
His
Not good,
farts are
guys.
like Andy Dufresne's now. But anyway, so yeah, so basically, John Africa comes up with this organization, is what he calls it. Some people call it a cult. It's kind of irrelevant to this story. Whatever.
Charity, cult. They both start
Same
with C.
thing.
You know,
So
they
it's
both
called
petition me in front of Petco. The same thing.
either way. So it's called Move, but it's originally called the Christian Movement for Life, and there's a lot of like things that it's lumped into just because of the time period. So it's mostly black people that are in this organization. So because of the time period with the Black Panthers and all that, it's kind of been lumped in with like a black like
Like a black nationalist type of
yeah, like a
thing.
black
Yeah,
nationalist
okay,
group. Like that's been, but
okay.
it's really not that at all because there is some white members, and they kind of like denounce a lot of what the Black Panthers do because they're supposed to be like anti um violence, and it's almost like kind of like vegetarian values, and their philosophies were that like you're supposed to be returning to like hunter gatherer selves and back to nature, and you're not supposed
So
to use
they're more hippies.
technology. Yeah, they're very much Amish hippies, right? But it's kind of weird because it's like, all right, like you're in Philadelphia, they're in West Philadelphia, by the way.
Born and raised.
Thank you for saying that. I was hoping you would.
Thank you.
So they're in West Philadelphia right now, and you got Amish people that are living like an hour away from you. Just go chill out with the Amish people. Why are you doing this in the middle of the city? Like, it's got to be so hard to live like an anti-technology hunter-gatherer lifestyle in the middle of West Philadelphia.
I have tried living a hunter-gatherer lifestyle in the middle of downtown. Not so easy.
Downtown San Antonio.
Yes.
Sometimes some people are pretty successful at it, I have to
I
say.
was not the only one who was living that way. I'll tell you that much.
Used to boil denim underneath the bridge.
You ever drive by the McDonald's on Houston Street? You know what I'm talking about.
So basically, the Move organization preached like no drugs or alcohol, like a
So
life.
would you say they're very fundamentalist Christian? Just to kind of paint a picture, because it sounds like they're like no drugs, no alcohol, like very simple lifestyle. Like I would say more like I don't necessarily want to use the term evangelical, but very fundamentalist, very like kind of like the Mennonites, where you return to your roots, do very heavy on scripture. Okay, so nothing will go wrong with them.
It's very it's very hypocritical though, and this is a quote. I know, it's you. I guess
Religion
you weren't.
hypocritical.
I know.
My God, color me a gas ray.
You weren't expecting that, but I'm just gonna quote something from Robert Wagner Pacific, who's been an author of a lot of books about Move, and he said
Okay.
that the Move organization had some
Big shout out to Robert Wagner Pacific.
big shout out, and to his hipster mother for making him have a hyphenated last name. So basically, he said you had the elements of vegetarianism and some aspects of Rastafarianism. And he says, I think that they had their own conscious desire to be uncategorizable. Is that how you say that
Oh,
word?
okay, yeah. No, but I get the
They just
plot
wanted
train
to be
behind it. Yeah.
different. Yeah, like it was just it's and I have done a lot of research on this group and there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, yeah, I can get down with that. And then there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, yeah, that's fucked up. I'm not about that. Um so
I
like
want to
and
hear the fucked up parts.
yeah, so this is kind of the fucked up parts. So they said that they weren't really allowed to eat meat, but then that wasn't always necessarily true because they did eat meat. And then they had a bunch of kids that were part of the organization, and
Oh
the
no.
kids were only fed raw meat. And the reason for this was because they said that like they wanted like it was more natural to do it this way and the kids' bodies weren't used to cooked meat yet, so they were able to eat cooked meat when the adults could eat the uncooked meat when the adults could eat cooked meat. So kind of hypocritical. Also, like the adults would like drive in cars and but they have a wooden stove. So it just they would pick technology like when they wanted to use it, like when it was convenient to them. You know, very
These
weird.
guys sound like fucktards already.
Right, and the kids like weren't allowed to play with toys.
You can't play with your toys until you've played with your meat.
Yeah, there's a lot of accounts, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later. There's lots of accounts of the kids looking like they were malnourished. The
Well, yeah,
kid
all they ate was raw meat. You're damn right they're malnourished.
they like weren't allowed to wear clothes, so they just be like naked, like just very
Oh
odd.
no, no,
Once you kind of get
no,
kids involved, it's
no,
kind
no
of
naked kids.
yeah,
No.
just put your clothes on. Nobody wants to see anything.
Don't stop playing with your meat and put your clothes back on, son.
Son. So you're going to hear the last name Africa involved a lot of times too, like John Africa. So basically, once you were a part of Move, you would have your surname changed to Africa in order to like bring you back to your like African roots, which I'm about. Like that's cool.
I mean, we're
Let's
all from Africa, really. So yeah, that okay. That. I mean, I can't say I'm down with this because naked children, but
hmm
okay.
This is another like categorization. I don't know why I can't say that word right now. It's another categorization of like how they were. Is a lot of people describe them as like a radical form of the Green Party, which sounds so nightmarish to me. Renee's face. Yeah. So anyway, so that's move. That's kind of what we're talking about here. So now we're gonna start it with the beef. And
Well,
where's the
so we
beef?
haven't started with the beef. I found it. It was with the children in their mouths while they're
Oh.
naked. I guess there's more beef. Yay! Woo!
Checkmate.
Woohoo!
Okay, so this is the start of the beef. Beef is starting. It's sizzling on the grill. It's getting ready to be cooked up and served. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
we're in West Philadelphia
Born
in the
and
nine.
raised.
Yep, in the 1970s. At this point,
Mm-hmm.
police departments in the United States at this time, especially
Ruh,
Philadelphia,
ruh,
did not have the
ruh.
best reputation for several
1970s police
reasons.
departments with a group of largely African American people. Nothing will go wrong.
I know. Can you imagine? Like, I don't need to explain all the reasons,
I
but
don't think anything's going to go wrong here.
we're gonna go back to March 28th in 1976.
That was a good year for me.
Great year. He was in our father's testicles.
Mm-hmm.
So Move members were outside of their house, and they were being loud and boisterous and doing whatever they do. I don't know.
I
And
don't
then
want to know what they do, quite frankly.
whatever, something with their meat, and police were called, and an argument ensued, and then somehow during this whole altercation, there was a baby that was part of the Move group that ended up dying.
I wonder why.
And it's kind of like unknown exactly like how exactly the
Oh.
baby died. I saw a lot of different
Oh.
things from different sources, but I think it just was like probably young and I don't know. It sounded like it was kind of a messy situation.
I mean, they were
Um
probably trying to feed an infant uncooked meat.
May that could be it too. Yeah, so I don't really know like the cause of death, but Move claims it was the police department's fault, which I don't have any reason to believe that it wasn't, but I'm
Hmm.
not there to judge. So no investigation took place following the baby's death, but the members of Move did have representation. They sued the city, and they were represented by Councilman Blackwell. and he went to the Move house shortly after the.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt,
no, do your
but
thing.
so I'm kind of curious. So you had me. So they were represented by a councilman. So these guys have
Correct.
friends in like high places.
Yeah, they do.
Interesting.
They do because a lot of them supported them because some of the members were former Black Panthers,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I think John Africa had a lot of support too. And
Okay.
I think people kind of really liked the ideas of what Move was trying to do, even though they didn't really necessarily do it in the
Well,
best
that was like
ways.
Jonestown and the People's Temple. They actually for a while had a lot of support in California, and it's because that's part of the reason why they moved to Guyana was because they lost that support. I
Ooh,
would say we should do an episode on them, but they're pretty well known.
they're
So I
pretty
don't.
well
Yeah,
known.
yeah.
This
Jim.
is
Yeah.
this I like to call this almost like an inner city Waco
Yeah.
situation.
Okay. Yeah. I remember.
It's yeah, I'm sure you know Waco, you Texan. But yeah, this is very much what it's like.
Big
But
not shout out to Waco.
shout out to Waco. Like in the last episode, I was like, shout out to communist China.
Thanks, Red Army. Protect us when
Ah,
this podcast is very
oh, I'm
popular
gonna
among the
do a lot,
Chinese Communist Party.
do a lot editing this episode.
Probably.
Um, so Councilman Blackwell goes to the Move house at this time
Okay.
as he's representing them after the baby's death, and he goes to the Move house and he goes up the stairs and he talks about seeing a shrine towards the baby, and the baby's body was all set up there in like a really creepy way, like in a shrine. Um, and I
Okay.
just wanted to bring that into the podcast because it just was a
Thanks,
little
Ray.
bit
We
creepy
didn't have enough
thing.
creepy baby altars.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of weird. So basically, all members of Move were pissed after this. Understandably, a baby is dead, and they started
Yeah.
to become more militant. And the
Oh.
beef started sizzling hard. Okay. Basically, at this time, Move like starts like getting more angry at the police department, and they're
Mhm.
standing outside their place with rifles, looking really intimidating. Like they're an intimidating lot of people. Uh, and so
So these formerly pacifists have now gone on to arm themselves and basically militarize
yes, in the middle of like a
from
residential neighborhood in a city.
exactly from the middle of urban Philadelphia due to a combination of previous some members being part of other militant groups and just overall just being urban Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
And so the beef starts brewing harder. I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
should still keep going with this beef thing, but I kind of like it. So Move makes the deal with the city, and especially specifically with Mayor Frank Rizzo, who we're going to
Okay.
talk about a little bit here. He's a white dude, and he is kind of a giant dickwad.
Whoa! You're telling me a mayor of a giant town is an asshole? I
I know,
wouldn't believe
especially in
that.
the 1970s.
What?
This is a quote from Mayor Frank Rizzo, and I'm gonna have to apologize for the awful word that I use in this, but I just want to use it because I think it shows what a piece of
Okay.
shit he is.
Okay.
Um, this is a direct quote from him. "I'm going to be so tough as a mayor. I'm going to make Attila the Hun look like a faggot."
Oh.
Isn't that someone you want running your town?
Oh.
Yeah,
I I don't even think I can say, hey, it was a different time, guys. That's just an
that's
statement.
a awful thing. Also,
Oh.
like Attila the Hun. Come on,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, that he wow.
Yeah, he went there. Uh,
Wow. Okay. I'm speechless. Wow, I don't have a thing for that.
so Move meets up with Frank Rizzo, the Riz, in 1978, and they're
He
like,
doesn't get a cute nickname. Fuck this guy.
"Oh yeah, fucking, oh yeah." I still want to call him the Riz, but okay, Rizzo,
Okay. Okay, fine. We can call him the
Frankie,
Riz. We can call him the Riz. Fine. It's your
the
It's
Riz.
your episode. You can
Thank
do it.
you. It's just kind of fun. Anyway, so Move goes meets with Riz, and they're like, "Yo, we want some of our members out of jail, and in return, we'll give you any of our weapons we have."
Why were they in jail? Out of curiosity.
They were in jail because of like the incident with the baby dying.
Oh, with the baby. Well, okay, yeah.
There was a
Okay.
lot of other incidences, and I wrote down the complete number over the course of the years, like how many arrests and different things
Like,
that
we
Move
don't
was
have to go over
involved
all of
in.
them, but
No,
I
you
mean,
don't.
obviously the baby thing's a big deal. But what are some of the other ones out of curiosity?
Oh God, I don't know. There's so many protests and shit that they were
Oh,
involved
okay,
in.
okay, okay. So
So
just in
many stuff.
general,
It just
okay,
was like constant brewing of beef over time with different arrests of
okay.
members and like whatever. Um, So the city held up their end of the bargain and they got their members that they wanted out of prison. And when it was time to pick up the weapons from the Move house, none of the Move members left the house.
Oh,
So big problemo.
okay.
And so it was morning time and the Riz was like, yo, we're going to take out these people by force of this house. They need to,
Oh,
they broke the deal. We're taking them out.
oh.
Yeah. And then bulldozers start like knocking down fences and gunfire starts.
How big is this house?
This one, I don't know how big it is. This isn't even the main house that we're going to be
Oh,
talking about.
oh. This is side compound C. We're not even at.
This isn't even the like
This is not even
the.
the Move HQ. Okay.
It's not even the fillet of the beef.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
we're at the burnt edges that Renee forgot about because he was too busy getting drunk instead of paying attention to the meat. Got you.
Absolutely. We
Okay,
are the
okay.
stuff that you need to lather in ketchup because it's so unsightly.
Oh, so what we call Renee in general.
Exactly. I love you lathered in ketchup. I don't know why you chose mustard today, but it's unsightly.
I apologize.
So gunfire starts, and Move members are still inside. They don't really know who started shooting first. There's
Hmm.
tons of different
So
speculation.
this is sounding very similar to Waco.
Yeah. A police officer, Officer James Ramp, is killed during this time.
Oh, that makes things great for Move.
Yeah,
They've now killed a police officer.
right. Really not looking good. There's 4 police officer and 5 firefighters that are injured. Although there's other sources I read that said up to 16 people were injured, so I'm not really sure, but
Okay,
still not good.
not good.
Yeah, and you can see video of all this like gunfire happening because this is pretty recent. It's in the
That's true.
1970s.
Yeah, that's true. This is recorded history at a time where there would be a lot of news reporters watching this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Right.
makes
And
sense.
I do have to say too is I got a lot of my information from a documentary called Let the Fire Burn. And it's a documentary that was made, it's kind of an old one, but it's very like archival where it just kind of like shows videos of what happened and people's interviews. There's
Mm-hmm.
no like commentary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very like unbiased preparation of the
It's
events.
literally showing, not telling. Got you.
Exactly.
Okay.
But this whole gun battle between Move and the police and the firefighters is horrific because you see the firemen and the police like trying to get away and it's just sad.
I don't know why I'm just picturing the firefighters with guns and just fire blazing away. But
With
anyways, I'm
big
sorry.
Uzis.
With big giant Uzis,
they have
we'll put the fire out with bullets.
they have fire what are those things called?
Fire hoses, water cannons,
No. What are those fire guns
flamethrowers,
called? Flamethrowers.
flamethrowers. Yeah,
They're
firemen.
literal
This is
firefighters.
1984, Ray. Firemen don't start the fires.
So basically, the shooting stops when a bunch of kids, who are obviously naked because it's members of Move. Sorry, I gotta bring that
God.
up every time.
Oh,
So kids walk out and women start
oh.
leaving the house. So the shooting stops, which is good.
Okay.
And this guy, Delbert Africa, walks out, and this is all on video. So I'm going to tell you exactly kind of what I saw from the video because I watched it.
This is Ray's eyewitness account when she was there in 1976.
1978, but close.
1978.
Um, and so Delbert Africa walks out. He's this like grown, muscular black dude with like longer, like braided or dreaded hair. And he walks out with his hands up. He's got what looks to be a knife in one hand, and he's got like a clip of a gun in the other. And it's kind of hard to tell, but that's what it says that he has in there. And he kind of like walks behind a police car, and you kind of see him getting taken down and beaten by police, which you kind of would expect after like a shooting situation, him to be taken down pretty roughly.
Yeah, and he has a weapon in his hands.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I counted at least 6 to 7 kicks to the head by the
Oh,
police. Yeah, and I watched it a couple of times because obviously there's going to be like emotions running high
Oh, I
because of
thought you were
what
gonna
just
say because this
happened.
is your fetish to watch people getting kicked in the head, but yeah, I guess for accuracy of our podcast would be important.
I like people getting hit in the groin better, but especially women. Uh,
Cunt punch.
Cunt punch. Oh, that's gonna be my next AKA. Um, yeah, like too many head kicks. It was just like way overdone and just really kind of sad to watch. Yeah,
Hmm.
so after that whole thing, Delbert Africa is arrested. The move house is torn down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they had a huge cache of like firearms and ammo in the move house
Wow.
that was seized. So they did have weapons in there. So move members after this whole thing were like, we didn't do any shooting. This was all planned by the cops. Like the cop was shot in friendly fire. We didn't do anything. So three officers were in fact charged with beating Delbert Africa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
And none of them were found guilty though.
Oh, yeah.
And then nine MOVE members were sentenced to 30 to 100 years for the murder of Officer James Ramp, who was the one that was killed in that fire that I
Okay.
discussed.
Okay.
Not the fire, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean, the shooting. So when the police were interviewed about the treatment of Delbert,
Hmm.
there was one police officer that was interviewed, and he seemed like really sincerely emotional, and working in like an emotional environment. Like I kind of can see where he's coming from because he said that he like was just his emotions were running so high and he was watching all of his people get slaughtered that he just was so emotional. And I get that, but also like you don't need to kick someone in the head multiple times when he's already on the ground. And I feel like the police should have been trained how to deal with stress and not make matters worse. But
I mean, I can empathize. I've kicked people in the head for less.
so next few years, Move disappears.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we're just gonna, keep going.
Okay.
We're gonna go 6 years later to 1984.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they hid for a while.
Yeah, like 6 years ish. They still had a lot of members in prison. I think John Africa was like puttering up in New York somewhere. He wasn't in Philadelphia because he wasn't involved in this house.
Hmm. Hmm.
But 1984, moved to 6221 Osage Avenue in West Philadelphia. And this is where like our main beef is going to take place.
Oh, we're at the center cut now.
We're now at the center cut. Yep, we ate some barbacoa, and then we had some ribeye, and we're going for the fillet.
We're wrapping this bad boy in some bacon.
Oh,
Okay, got you.
yes, mushrooms and onions. Yes. Anyway,
I like
so
my steaks like I like my women smothered.
what's that
Anyways,
you have in the background in your all tied up in your garage, Renee?
shh, we told you not to talk about that one, Ray. And yes, folks, I'm recording in my garage. Shut up. Every podcast has humble beginnings.
Well, didn't Apple start recording in their garage too?
When Steve Jobs started his podcast in the '80s with
Mm-hmm.
Apple. Yes, yes,
Yep.
he started in his garage.
Wow, the 1980s, another connection.
Another connection.
So this new move house, the street that it was on was a, 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 a street full of row houses. It's a blue collar neighborhood and there's mostly black residents there,
Hmm.
which is it's pertinent. There's a reason why I'm saying it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So a bunch of Move members moved to this house on Osage Avenue. And their goal at this point was to get their Move members out of prison that were sentenced for the murder of Officer James Ramp. So the place, they kind of destroyed it. It's kind of like a nice neighborhood. Like people had been living there for like decades and like never had any problems, but like Move came in and completely destroyed the place. Like
Oh.
yeah, they did like composting on their roof. They had like an animal shelter in their alley. They had these like big rope things that they would like use to climb up and down on their roof with. So like you could just see them like climbing up and down their house, like to the roof to the ground. Like they have stairs inside. Like it's very bizarre.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They had stray dogs, roaches, like raw meat, kids eating out of the trash, naked
Oh,
kids.
oh
Remember, they're
God!
naked.
They're still naked. These
They're
children have
still
never.
naked.
6 years later, they still have no clothes.
All their windows are boarded up at this house. And they had a huge megaphone, like a massive megaphone, like on the side of their house that you could hear blocks and blocks down that they would just shout profanities at the weirdest times.
Oh God!
So it's like those people that like have opinions and they just like try to shout it in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that all the time, except for they're like horribly graphic about
So
it.
like all the people who I've ever encountered staying outside the post office, exactly.
Exactly. And they
Ugh.
have and so like everyone in the neighborhood, all their nice neighbors are constantly subjected to all this profanity and yelling from Move. And like I saw there was like this Christmas morning there was recording of the Move neighborhood and there was a guy yelling just like motherfucking Santa Claus like over and over again, just kept yelling that.
Okay,
And
that's kind of funny.
it was kind of funny. But they would like threaten to like rape people or kill people. Like it was just a very like intimidating situation and the neighbors didn't really know what to do about it.
Yeah, so already the neighbors are like, their once quiet blue collar inner city neighborhood is now people threatening to rape Santa Claus.
Right. And when the neighbors confronted them, the members of Move said they stated that they were doing this to get the neighborhood mad because they wanted the neighborhood to get mad enough to complain so the police would take notice. And then when the police take notice, the Move members would be have a better chance of getting out of jail. So that was their
Okay.
rationale. They wanted the city to react to them, and boy did they
Basically, they
react.
they wanted them to say round two, motherfuckers. Let's go.
Right, like
Okay.
your turn, checkmate. And they also built a giant bunker on their roof. It was made of like wood, steel,
Let's say
plywood. It had holes for shooting.
next to the animal cages and the cockroaches, the other shit they had up there. Wow.
Crazy. Yeah, so it was like a total nightmare, I'm sure, to be neighbors with these
So
people. I'm sure it's horrific.
they're a slightly worse neighbor than me. Got it.
So the neighbors stated they felt hopeless and that they felt like they were like pawns between the city, the police department, and the members of Move, which they absolutely were. And even Mayor Good, who we're going to talk about from now on, who's a new mayor. So we had the Riz.
I'm kind of glad Mayor Rizzo's out of the picture,
You
and I have
should
a
be.
feeling. Oh, okay, so Mayor Good, is he actually better?
He's better. I'm not really gonna. I know that I just called one guy a dickhole, but Mayor Good's better, and he's interesting too because he's a black man.
Oh,
So
okay, okay,
that's where race comes into this
okay. That's
again.
that's interesting. Okay,
Yeah, so he comes into power, but mayor of
he sees power
sees
from the guy.
power of West
You know what?
Philadelphia.
I'm going to believe that he overthrew
Riz.
Mayor Rizzo in a way that would make Attila the Hun smile. That's my head canon.
Eloquently put, Renee. I love it. Second mayor, Wilson Good, comes in the picture in 1983.
Okay.
And he even admits on camera that he didn't know what to do and he didn't know the proper way to deal with this whole Move situation. So, like, it's a very kind of weird subject. Like, it's very. Anyway.
I don't imagine there's like a mayor, like, idiot's guide to being a mayor, and it's like the chapter on what to do with a crazy cult who blasts music, threatens their neighbors, shoots at the police, and has naked children eating raw meat. I don't think that chapter's in there.
Right. And then also because they were clumped in with the Black Panther Party so often, there was a lot of people supporting Move.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where a lot of problems came in too, because they weren't really affiliated with like other black nationalist groups. So, but they were just inherently because of the time period.
Enemy of my enemy type of thing. It's like you're fighting the authorities, we're fighting the authorities. You're predominantly black, we're predominantly black. Yeah, okay.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the whole ordeal. And this is like the big moment.
So this is when you've already gotten sweaty from eating all the other beef, but you realize there's that last little bit of like center cut prime rib, in the middle of the plate, and you have to finish it off, even though you're already like ready to like die.
And
From
it's going
the
to give
heart
you the
attack.
sweaty beef shits.
Sweaty, big, like you're like it's gonna take 4 days to poop, but when you finally do, dear God.
So these sweaty beef shits start taking place on May 12th, 1985, where the Philadelphia Police Department go to Osage Avenue and knock on all the neighbors' doors and tell them to evacuate the neighborhood for 24 hours. Because they're getting the fuck rid of move.
Hey, buddies, you might want to get out of here right now.
You might want to get out of here because shit is going down.
Things are about to get a little hairy. Okay.
Mayor Good, he said that he wanted to seize control of the house by any means necessary.
Okay.
So this is their...
Was he going to be like Attila the Hun?
Yes. Oh man, I was just gonna repeat. Never mind. So this was their case for eviction. So they were gonna go ahead and get all the Move members out of the house by any means necessary and evict them from their house due to these charges: disorderly conduct, parole violation of several of the members, criminal conspiracy, terroristic threats.
Yeah.
And because they're believed to be problematic weapons, automatic weapons in the house.
Problematic, automatic, I think.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Around 3:30 in the morning, we're now on May 13th, 1985. About 500 police officers surrounded the Move house.
Wow.
Yeah, 500. And they turned off all gas and electricity in the neighborhood. So they shut it down. And they knew how many people were in the house. And in the house there were 3 women, 4 men, and 6 children.
Whoa, so they brought
naked
literally
children. Sorry.
You're so quick to bring up. So they literally brought a small army. And I'm not even trying to joke. Like 500 guys is a small army.
In West Philadelphia in the 1980s.
1980s for 13 people, almost half of whom are children. I think Mayor Good may be basically pointing a rocket launcher at a cockroach right now.
Right. He's a little bit Mayor Dodgy right now.
Yeah.
And one big issue that I learned from researching this is when this all started going down, they didn't have a professional negotiator on scene, which is a huge red flag. Come on. You're trying to get people out of a house. At 6 a.m., we're going to talk about the police commissioner, who's also kind of a piece of work himself. Piece of work, piece of shit, whatever you want to call him. His name is Gregory Sambor. And he shouts to the members of Move from outside with his megaphone, "Attention, Move. This is America. That's my Gregory Sambor voice.
This is America. Wow.
Attention, Move. This is America. You have to abide by the laws of the U.S." And he gave them 15 minutes to leave the house. The Move members responded by just yelling profanities back at the police.
I was going to say, they have their own megaphone. So
they have they have a megaphone.
Yeah, excellent.
They were like, "Motherfucking Santa Claus." No, they said that they wouldn't surrender, basically, and said that they would kill everyone. They would make their wives widows, and their wives would be fucking black men to the end of the day.
Oh.
Is the gist of what they yelled back at the police.
Okay.
So I'm sure there was a lot of ego just going everywhere.
This is some good old-fashioned men, there could be women involved on the both sides, but just guys beating their chests just trying to establish dominance. Got you.
Then they were like, okay, 6 a.m., no one's getting out of the house like we wanted, even though we were like, this is America. And so let's go ahead and get some tear gas in this building.
Oh, nothing will go wrong. I'm sure this will just be a little momentary thing and nothing bad will go from here.
So they start pouring tons of tear gas into the house where they know 6 children are. I'm just going to keep sprinkling that in so you keep remembering that there's 6 children in this house.
There's 6 children in the house. Okay.
Tear gas is flowing in. And no one's coming out. They are holding their ground. They are staying in that house. And the police are getting a little pissy at this. So they're like, okay, so what are we going to do next? So then they start shooting water cannons. Water cannons that shoot approximately 1,000 gallons per minute, which sounds like a lot to me. I don't know. I'm not an expert.
It's a lot. A water cannon, I've never been hit with a water cannon.
That's good.
Thankfully. But I've heard they can hurt.
He's shooting that in the house. And the water cannons essentially increased the humidity in the house, which made the tear gas like more effective and like.
So plan one plus plan two turns into plan three.
Still no one's coming out.
Okay.
So now they're like, what do? We did tear gas and we're doing these water cannons and people are still in the house. What are we supposed to do now? And so then shooting happens.
Oh, of course that. Yeah.
Shooting. Now we're just going to shoot a house with children in it. And there's not really a debate, but people like to debate who started shooting first.
Mm-hmm.
And it's undeniably agreed upon that it was automatic fire that started first. And when the move house was searched after this whole thing, there was no automatic weapons found. So then you can go ahead and come to the conclusion that it was the police that started firing first.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. When Gregory Sambor, the police commissioner, was asked about this, he claimed that he heard automatic fire first. But then when he was asked, well, they didn't have any automatic weapons, he kind of like poo-pooed it off and couldn't really answer it. So I believe that the police started shooting first. And they shot over 10,000 rounds of ammo at the house. And they ran out of ammo. And in the documentary, Let the Fire Burn, you can see a car pulling up to the shooting area outside of the house and open its trunk. And the trunk is filled with ammo because they ran out of ammo. So they literally had a car come filled with ammo in the back so they could reload.
Wow. It's like a militia member's dream.
13 people in the house, 10,000 rounds of ammo. It's absolutely insanity.
You know, you only need about 900 bullets to take down one person.
So this is going on for a long time. And around 5 p.m., someone is like, well...
And this all started in the morning, too, right?
Mm-hmm. This
is going on all day.
6 a.m. is when Gregory Sambor was like, come out. This is America. So now we're at 5 p.m. and everyone's still inside. And someone suggests, let's drop a bomb on the house.
Oh, yay! Let's bomb children. This is America. Let's bomb children.
And part of the reason that this was suggested was because the Philadelphia Police Department at this time was given a lot of C4 bombs by the FBI. There's a lot of different reasonings for this, why they were given this, but they had C4 just laying around.
With nothing to do. We have all the C4 around and I've been itching to use it. Let's use it on children.
And also the police department was worried about the bunker that Move had on the roof. So they were worried that that would be like a huge disadvantage for them, and they wanted to get rid of that bunker. Which I guess in like a war rationale, that makes sense, but this is a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, the problem, this is America, literally.
So it only took them 45 minutes to get a bomb together in a helicopter. So they got a helicopter.
Me thinks this was always on the table.
This was always going to happen.
This is always going to happen.
It's so fun.
All right, it's time for Plan D, and everyone's like, "Yay, Plan D!"
Drop a bomb. Just drop a bomb in the neighborhood. So the bomb was dropped on top of the roof. Bomb explodes. And surprisingly, the bunker is still completely intact, which is remarkable. They must have done a pretty damn good job on that bunker, I have to say. It's doing its job. No one is in the bunker at this time, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, please tell me that's not where they hid all the children.
No, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but no.
Okay.
So 5 minutes later, after the bomb was dropped, the house sets on fire, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And of course, it was at this point where they stopped shooting all the water cannons at the house, which would have been helpful because the house is on fire. And not only is the house on fire, but the surrounding houses are also starting to catch on fire.
Oh, yay, collateral damage.
And this ended up being a 5-alarm fire, which, do you know what that means, Renee?
Yeah. 5-alarm chili. Yeah, it's a bad one.
It's a bad one. So I looked up exactly what it meant.
Oh, okay. I actually don't know the exact definition. Please hit me with it.
So the exact definition, five alarm fires rarely happen. It's like a classification, and it typically calls for 20 plus fire engine companies, 11 ladder companies, at least one squad company, and one rescue company, as well as multiple specialized units such as supply shops, air support, hazardous materials vehicles, snack trucks, all that other stuff. That's from Google.
Okay, snack trucks.
I know. I just wanted to add that in because I
Yeah,
kind of like that part. I
I
don't know
had
what
a,
type of.
I had a feeling you were most excited about the snack truck. We'll have to do an episode on snack trucks.
I wanted to think like what kind of snack trucks they would bring to a five-alarm fire. Probably not spicy food.
So basically, what you're saying though is this is a fire that needs like a good chunk of the fire department's resources. We're talking about a sizable fire department too, like the Philadelphia Fire Department.
Right. So the bomb is dropped at 5:45,
Okay.
and around 6 p.m., Mayor Good is watching all this shit go down at home, I believe, and he's watching it on TV, and he orders the fire to be put out. A little bit too late, but he claims he thought the fire was being put out right away, but it was just the static on his TV. But that was a little bit of like kind of a coincidental like excuse. But Mayor Good calls Sambor, the police commissioner, and was
So
like, "Yo,
he's not even
Sam."
there in person.
No,
He's coward.
but I feel like he probably wouldn't be anyway as the mayor, right? I don't
Look,
know.
if he's gonna Attila Hun this thing, he needs to be in the front position. That's what Mayor Rizzo would do. He'd be on his horse.
Good calls Sambor, the police commissioner, and is like, "Yo, put this fire out." And then it was Sambor's job to then relay that to the fire commissioner.
Uh-oh.
Now, the fire commissioner says that he was never given this order. And this, I've watched the testimonies from Sambor and from the fire commissioner. Sambor seems like a piece of shit, and the commissioner seems like he's being quite genuine in the interview, and he said that he was never told that order, and I honestly believe him. So the fire was never put out when it was supposed to be. While the fire is still ablazing, there's a couple MOVE members that try to escape the house from the back of the house. And this is relevant in a couple ways because two of the officers that were seen that saw these people trying to escape the house were the officers that were involved in the beating of Delbert, Africa, when Officer James Ramp was killed. Conflict of interest much?
Oh, the plot thickens.
I know.
Okay.
So probably shouldn't have assigned those officers to be there that day. But per those police officers, they saw a little boy and a man with a rifle that was shooting at them coming out of the back of the MOVE house.
Oh, no.
So this is per one of the survivors. So spoiler alert, there's two survivors that made it out of the house. One of whom was a child named Birdie Africa, now named Michael Ward, and the other was Ramona Africa, who was a grown woman. But testimony from Birdie Africa, he said that he saw two of the members, one of which was a 14-year-old and the other which was a younger boy. So not a man and a boy.
So a teenager. Okay.
Yeah, so two little boys come out of the house, and he said that the 14-year-old was carrying a monkey wrench and not a rifle. He said, and Birdie claims that he then heard gunshots. So it is easy to assume that the police officers were shooting at them, although that's not conclusive. But I'm trying to think of what would make two little boys want to go back inside a burning house when there's police officers that are supposedly saying, "Come over here, we're gonna save you." You know, it just doesn't make sense. Like something made them go back to that house, because those two boys turned and went right back into the house, which is so sad because they both ended up dying. So then we're going to talk a little about Ramona and Birdie. So Ramona and Birdie were seen coming out of the house, and Ramona climbs over a fence and Birdie's with her, and Birdie slips and falls backwards, and falls and hits the back of his head, and is bleeding. and he's still in the front of the house, and there's still shit going down. And one of the officers, and who's actually one of the heroes and one of the only good people in this whole story, and I hope I pronounce his name right, Officer James Bergheyer. And he just runs up to Birdie and scoops him up and picks
He
him up and
actually
saves him.
sees a bleeding child and says, "I'm going to do the right thing and help said bleeding child." Good for him. Good for him. Shout out to him.
Yeah, and according to this officer, Birdie shouts, "Don't shoot me, don't shoot me," as he's like trying to save him, which is just so sad. That poor officer, he is horribly harassed by his fellow PD members after this whole ordeal.
Wow, for saving a child, even if it's not one of the cult freaky Mary, it's a child.
It's so sad. He left the police force a year after because he had like N-word lover written on his locker and like
Oh
his stuff vandalized. Oh no, Renee, are you paused again?
no, I can hear you, but
Renee,
your video's paused. Can you hear
we're
me?
53 minutes and you can't be paused. Yeah, so poor Officer James Bergheyer was really kind of affected by this, and that he was like really marginalized by his coworkers for doing the right thing and saving a child. So he retired shortly after, and he was diagnosed with PTSD, understandably.
Yeah, I'll give that guy a good reason to have PTSD.
Aftermath of this whole thing, Renee, what do you think happened to people that were involved in this?
Officer side or the cult member side?
Officer side.
Well, I'm gonna say since the one guy who actually tried to help somebody got ostracized, I'm gonna say the people who probably didn't help anybody probably got like fucking medals and commendations and were told that they did valor in the line of duty.
Well, not too far off, honestly.
Oh,
Um,
wow. My cynicism works.
The fire was quote unquote under control, which I don't know what the fuck that means, around 11:45 that night. So it was going on for since
Hours.
yeah, hours and hours and hours, over 6 hours. And in the end over 60 houses were destroyed
Oh,
on Osage Avenue.
lovely. Because they're all connected together, like you
They're
said.
all connected. So you can look at pictures of this and it is outstanding. I would completely recommend it.
I'm still listening to you. I actually kind of want to. I kind of want to see what a picture looks like, so that way I can get my actual reaction. Osage Avenue.
Yeah, it's OSAGE and it's 6221. But you can just look up Osage Avenue.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a lot of fire.
At its peak, the fire went 10 stories high. It could be
Yeah,
seen
that's a lot of
miles
fire.
away.
Yeah, I'm literally looking at pictures of this, guys. Like literally, and yeah, there was a lot of destruction. Wow. So I'm looking at like a bird's eye view of it, and you can see because yeah, it's exactly as Ray describes. These are like tenement buildings all right next to each other, and like it just looks like a good chunk of this neighborhood is just like burnt to the ground. It looks like an arsonist's wet dream.
And you just think about these poor neighborhood
That's what I'm
people
thinking about.
that had
Like
their houses completely destroyed.
you spent like God knows how long listening to these fucking maniacs blasting all sorts of awful things at your neighborhood with naked children and like disease running around. And then you're like the police wake you up, tell you, "Hey, you need to get the fuck out now." And you come back home and your house is burnt down. Yeah, that I was going to say were
Huge tragedy.
the people sue the shit out of the city of Philadelphia over this?
They did, but they didn't really get any. It's just sad they didn't get a lot out of it because
Oh,
the city ended up settling and just paying a lot of money out to people. So I'll just
one
list
big settlement. Yeah.
exactly. So there was a big contracting job to fix the destroyed houses. And essentially, the company that fixed it did a really shoddy job at it. All the houses were condemned. And if you look up the area on Google Maps right now, it looks like it's still like a big construction site. The actual house, the move house, is all boarded up. It looks like it's had some construction done on it.
It looks like now, like starting like kind of towards the end of 2020, some of the Osage houses have been remodeled up to sale, but still, it took 35 years to rebuild these houses.
Right. And what do you think happened to the poor neighbors that were just like kicked out of their house? Like it just
It's like instant gentrification.
so
Like,
sad. So the city paid to rebuild the houses, but obviously a lot of them were condemned. Like I said, Ramona, Africa, She was still arrested. Like, she didn't just get out of this, like, scot-free.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Because
Yeah.
she didn't come out of the house. I mean, two wrongs don't make a right, but she didn't come out of the house. So she was arrested for conspiracy and inciting riot. And she got sentenced to 7 years, and she was released in 1992. And she could have gotten released earlier, but she failed to condemn Move, which is what they really wanted, but she wouldn't do that. But now she's no longer affiliated with Move.
Right. So Move is still active today.
I don't think really. I think
Okay.
there's some people that may be, but it's not really. Like,
Okay.
I don't think so. There's not really. I didn't see anything really online with any
Okay.
people
Like,
that
there's
were
no
still
join move.
involved. Not that
There's
I
no join.
saw.
There's no move.org.
But Ramona Africa, she did get $500,000 from the city because the city did find that they violated her constitutional rights, which I would say they did.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And Birdie Africa, basically his father was a long haul truck driver, and he was also in the military, and he had been looking for Birdie,
Oh,
and he
lovely.
found
Like,
him, and Birdie ended up living with his father, and then he changed his name to Michael Ward.
did they like kidnap him or?
No, they didn't kidnap him. His mother was also involved in Move, and he moved to the Move organization when he was 2 and had his
Okay.
name
Okay.
changed.
So as usual, women do awful things to their children, but never men.
I keep calling him Birdie. Michael Ward. He ended up dying in 2013 on a cruise ship from intoxication while in a hot tub, which is so
Oh,
sad. Like, what a sad
wow.
little
I
end
can
of a
imagine.
life.
Probably. I mean, he was a kid when this legitimately traumatizing event happened. I imagine he probably got screwed up afterwards. Probably had some mental health issues, and not to mention whatever is going on in the.
Right, and he is interviewed when he's like 11 or 12, and he is so freaking cute. He talks about that he hated Move because he wasn't allowed to play with toys, he wasn't allowed to eat normal food, he wasn't allowed to play like the other kids were. He didn't get into specifics with what happened at Move. He said that he only would discuss that with his father, but he said that he was scared of the organization, which doesn't give the police a right to bomb it, but it's just something to
No.
know in this horrific tragedy. There were no criminal charges that were ever filed against the police commissioner, the fire commissioner, any of the government officials, police officers that were involved in any of this,
Okay.
which does not surprise me.
It does not surprise me.
No, it doesn't. So 11 people ended up dying, 5 of which were
Right.
children, which is horrific.
I like my children clothed and alive.
Clothed and alive. That's a great way to like your children,
Th-
Renee.
Thank you, thank you. I like to think of myself as progressive when it comes to children.
So, but people have argued over the years because people say, wow, this had so much to do with race. And a lot of people say, well, this has nothing to do with race because Governor Wood was black.
Mm-hmm.
Governor Good was black. So how could this be a race thing? Because he's the one that okayed the bomb and did all this stuff. And there was an interview, of a Frontline documentary with Judy Woodruff that was done in 1985, and they interviewed a couple of the neighbors after this whole ordeal. And one of the neighbors said that it didn't matter that Good was a black man; it was mattered that the institution was inherently racist, and this is how the institution dealt with black people. And I think that's a really, really good way to put it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, because it just because some of the actors on the city part were African American themselves, there's still definitely the problematic issue of racism in the city and police in the 80s. We can all say that absolutely.
And a lot of this beef boiled up when Rizzo was mayor. And that's when a lot of it started. So, and Rizzo was
A
a
white
white
man.
dude. Yeah, and he
Yeah.
was a total D-bag. And
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that they would have dropped a bomb in the middle of a residential neighborhood that was a white neighborhood? Like, I just don't think it would have happened, as sad as that is.
Just looking at the picture, these houses are really close together, and there's no way you could say, "Oh, a bomb is going to have no collateral damage in this area." Of course, it is.
Yeah, like, I'm literally an idiot, and I could tell you that.
I mean, this is also your podcast as much as it's mine. Yeah, we're both idiots. there's a reason why we call that. We just shout that to each other when we're not recording.
But when something is set ablaze and it's connected to something else, probably that thing will also catch on fire.
Catch on fire. Whoa. Ray just taught me something, guys. I've the podcast that makes you smarter and dumber.
So yeah, so that was the story of the Philadelphia police bombing, and it just was a completely just horrible thing overall, like just a sad thing, but incredibly interesting. And I think it's really important for people to hear about this story, because I think a lot of times we like to think of us as the good guys, us as like the police department in America and our government. We like to think that we're the good guys. And there's a lot of times in history where we're not the good guys. And I don't know why we're saying we're, but like as a country, we have done some fucked up shit to our people.
Yeah, it's a shades of gray situation. The people in Move, were they doing bad things? Of course. But it's funny too, because I mean, and it could just be because, like I said, I'm from Texas, so we hear about, and Waco's a big deal. We talk about Waco. But at least for me, before you had ever even mentioned this story to me, Ray, like I'd never heard of this. I mean, obviously, if you're from Philadelphia, maybe up north, maybe this story resonates more. But I've never heard of it, and part of me makes it. Yes, Waco's more recent, but also is part of it because this took place in inner city Philadelphia with an African American community rather than a white community. And that's why it's kind of brushed aside, forgotten about. Just like Tulsa and other big events where a lot of African Americans were directly or indirectly harmed were kind of brushed aside, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also, too, like in my experience, my mom had never even heard of this, and she would have been in the East Coast in the 80s, so you think she would have heard of it. But then me, I've heard of Waco, which is not my time period, and it's complete opposite side of the US. So you kind of think, like, why is that? Like, is there just more media coverage on it, or is it just like, what is it? I think a lot of it has to do with race.
It's multifactorial, but I would say a part of it is definitely race, for sure.
But yeah, so that's the episode.
Okay. Well, I learned a lot, and definitely on a topic I hadn't heard of. And
yeah, and you know what, guys? Just have some beef tonight. Have some good old beef, whatever cut you want.
Gorge yourself on beef at the meat market.